here we are, 40 fit food. So you know what I realized is that I just started rhyming every single time, and I didn't tell people what we're doing. 40 fit food.
He's just a rhyming fool.
Right, is about rhyming fools. Remember that we are here, 40 fit food, Mimi and I, to help 40 and up, or around the 40ish range to
Or if you feel 40.
or if you feel 40,
yeah.
to maintain your health and fitness and throughout your life, even if you do Kung Fu. So, and what we're doing over the next few weeks, so we're at rule number 4 out of the 10 Fit Commandments. If you haven't seen it, check it. It's pinned onto this page, Control Your Health. It's pinned onto Mimi's page, Sifu Mimi. You can check it out on YouTube as well. But the 10 Fit Commandments, we're at rule number 4. I know you heard this before.
You win simply with consistency.
Right, correct. So that's exactly right. So the reason I paused is because the original lyric from Biggie Smalls is rule number 4. I know you heard this before. Never get high on your own supply. Right.
Right, which used to apply to you as a
drug dealer, right?
Pharmaceutical drug.
Quick tip, or a quick little tidbit on the 10 Fit Commandments is that was the first lyric that I wrote when Josh, who's our producer, said, "Hey, I want you to do
also known as JLC Rhythms."
Yeah, JLC Rhythms. Said, "Hey, I got a beat for you, and I want you to do a song." And I said, "Oh, you know what? I think I would do one on the 10 Fit Commandments, and maybe it would sound something like this." And that was the first lyric that I came up with. And then I procrastinated for about 4 weeks and came up with some other ones. So.
Yeah, that's okay.
But rule number 4.
You weren't consistent.
Right, I wasn't consistent. You win simply with consistency, and it is simple. It is that simple.
That's right.
Where do you want to go with it?
Well, from the Kung Fu side, so, like Oscar said, when we are here doing 40 Fit Fu, a lot of people who have given us feedback have said it's been encouraging because they show up at Kung Fu thinking they need to do all this prep work before jumping in and coming to class. And we always tell people, no, just come to class. That's what we're here for, is to kind of guide you and teach you. But that it's definitely not too late to start your Kung Fu career. So those of you who have been doing Kung Fu like me for maybe a long time or several years, or kind of going through the process, and then as you've approached 40, started feeling what we're feeling, or those of you who started a little later in life, like Oscar, and then, we didn't want you to be discouraged. So, but one of the things for sure that we tell our students is consistency, right? So the best way to get better at Kung Fu, Grandmaster Chan always says, is to practice. This is one time, somebody was asking him, well, how do you get better at the splits? He's like, practice the splits. And then one time someone's like, oh, how can you do those tom toys? And he's like, he was in a squatting position, probably because he was gardening or cutting something up or cooking or something, and he's like, you just have to kind of do it all the time. So for him, he's consistently moving and working his body in a way that's going to assist him in when he does Kung Fu, right? So it's not just even getting into class, but moving around all day, which you've talked a lot about before, doing joint warm-ups all day, in the morning, throughout the day, constantly moving. If you're at a desk sitting, then stand. If you're standing the whole time, kind of move around. So the best position is the next position, right? So, but consistently moving. And for Kung Fu though, if you miss a week of class, and you guys come back to class, a lot of people tell me how much they feel it. Right. And then also just for your brain, how much they forget the movements they're doing. So it is so unbelievably important in Kung Fu that you are consistent. So not just for the physical part of it, but also the mental part of it. So it kind of goes together, the physical and mental, but it's super, super important. So
the thing about consistency, right, and why it's so simple is because we already know exactly what we need to do, right? Like any goal that's out there, unless it's like, I don't know, how would I create nuclear fusion? Or I don't know, something crazy like that. But if it's like, it has to do with your health and your fitness, anyone who's watching this, deep down, you know what you need to do in order to eat the right foods that you need to eat. You know that you need to be moving around a little bit better. The only thing is that it's really easy not to do. So the things that are easy not to do, we skip to do. But it's also easy to do if you can do it consistently. And there's a quote that I heard that said something to the point of, it's not about heroic effort, but it's about heroic consistency over time. That is where you'll get all of your results. The intensity part, that's for amateurs. Consistency, that's what all the pros do. And that can apply to food, it can apply to exercise. Pick something, do it consistently, you're going to get better.
You got some really good comments from one of your personal heroes.
Oh, one of my
You don't
personal...
need to mention the name because it's really your hero.
If you say it's my hero, I know exactly.
Now that we're talking about heroics, basically, he said, what about persistently in addition to consistency? And then he also said that he probably knows how to create nuclear fusion.
Okay. Persistently and consistently are like
best
brother,
friends.
Yeah, they're like brothers.
Twins.
Like twins.
Like twins.
They're not exactly the same, but they're very similar.
Right. Well, this
And
is
so
from one of your heroes. So
you need persistence in order to be consistent. And being consistent can show you being persistent.
Oh,
now,
wow.
That's pretty deep, but the person that we're referring this to, he knows what we're talking about. And I would not say that Hip knows how to do the nuclear fusion. But
he can define it though.
yeah, but here's a small way to think of this. Let's say you wanted to get better at doing push-ups, right? Instead of one day saying, go on and doing as many push-ups as you can, and then being really sore, hurting your shoulders, and then not doing stuff for a little bit of time, find a number that is super easy for you to do. That number could be 1 push-up, 5 push-ups, 10 push-ups, and just do that every single day for the course of like a month, and that's it. You're gonna get stronger. Your push-ups will get better. And you can do the same thing with anything else.
Yeah, so for Kung Fu, any of your kicks or basic punches or any of the memorization for your work in terms of your forms, a lot of people always ask me, should I practice all of my forms on one day that I know? I mean, if you only know 4 or 5, then, it makes it a little limiting. But even so, I actually believe it's better to take the breakdown kind of how you just described, where you just take one form or even a section of movements and kind of work that consistently and kind of take your time to kind of do that, and then that is a lot more beneficial. Although it depends what your goal is. So if you're just going to try to memorize or trying to remember what you're doing, it's good to kind of go over the gamut. But if you're really trying to perfect and really improve certain movements and really try to improve your Kung Fu and kind of go deeper into it, I always think it's better to just kind of dissect it and do smaller parts and do that as consistently as possible. So if you say, okay, I'm gonna work on broadsword today, you have to kind of take that, but then you can't revisit it like 2 or 3 months later. You have to kind of keep yourself on a pattern where you're rotating through everything over time and kind of hitting up each milestone with each of your different forms of weapons. So, but like you said with the push-up, whether you're doing kicks or whether you want to get your split or anything like that, it's like, don't just try to jump into your split, push really hard, spend 2 hours like jumping in and out of Yechima. That's not going to do you any good. You get injured. It's a way to burn out really fast.
And if your goal is like, as the lyric says, you win simply with consistency. If your goal is to win at whatever you're trying to achieve, then remember that you don't need to have heroic Herculean effort, unless you are my hero and you know who I'm talking about. But you don't need to push yourself that hard every single session. You will get better if you find if this is where your limit is and you're always working like a little bit away from that. If this is 100%, if you're working at 70%, 80%, but you do that every single day for a long period of time, you will get much more benefit than going 100% for a few weeks, burning out, hurting yourself. So any goal that you have, if you approach it this way, if you approach it with consistency, you are looking in the long term. You're thinking of not where you can be in the next few months, but you're thinking, where do I want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And sometimes that can be a little bit daunting, but you will be shocked. Shocked if you stay consistent over a year, what you can accomplish, as opposed to going all out over the course of a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to the classic, incline, and then like a quick drop off versus kind of that plateau. We did a nice vlog on the plateau, loving the plateau, and kind of taking your time, a nice slow staircase up, and that's going to keep you progressing. A lot of people may be asking or thinking, well, when you say consistently, does that mean I'm doing something every day?
Maybe. So it depends. Let's do, since this is about Kung Fu, 40 Fit Fu, one of the first things that people do in class is some straight leg kicks, right? So we're here, bam, I just showed you my foot. But anyway, so we're doing kicks. And let's say you're just starting, and the first class you do 30 kicks and you're a little bit sore.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to just say, all right, I'm going to take 10%, I'm going to do 3 kicks a day, every single day, that you're on your own. And then you come to do your practice in class twice a week, those 3 kicks will carry over. Next time you're in class, you're going to be doing much better. So in that case, yes. You can do something every day. It's all about the dose. Like, it's just depends on how intense you go.
Right.
And the dose is intensity, your time, your duration. So there's a lot of different factors, and you have to also take into account what your limitations are. So just always remember, if this is where your max is, this is a wall, my invisible wall here, you can always work at 50% of that, at 30% of that, at 10% of that. You can do that every single day, but you probably can't push from that 80 to 100% range every single day. So.
And would you say, I think a lot of people also get discouraged, like, why bother do 10%? Why, if I can't go all
because
out.
Because of compound interest. That's why, baby. Compound interest.
So I can explain kind of more that. Because there's a mentality like, oh, well, I'm running 5 minutes late. Now, we don't want you to be late to class, but we would rather you show up. Now, if you're overly late, that's a problem. But, getting there is half the battle, getting into class. But some people also think, well, what's 5 minutes of stretching going to do on an off day? Or what is, I'd rather just watch Game of Thrones again or whatever. Or stretch while watching Game of Thrones again.
Well, the reason why is compound interest, because compound interest is one of the greatest things ever. Since my math isn't good, right? I'm not gonna try to say, well, if you multiplied a penny every single day, like how many millions it equates to. But there was an analogy used of like lily pads in a pond, and how they double every single time when they replicate. And the first few times they replicate, you don't notice the difference. But by the time they start doubling and it's halfway through, it's like it goes from covering up a quarter of the pond, and then half a pond, and then the entire pond. Those last jumps are like, boom, they're just astronomical. Mm-hmm. The initial work that's being done is slow, and you don't notice it.
Right.
And that's where you're putting in that kind of, the consistent grind, right? Where you're wondering, well, what is the benefit that I'm getting from here?
Yeah, because I feel like that is the drop off for people.
That's the drop off.
Where they quit, because they don't feel or see the progress right away, and it's really hard, especially with Kung Fu, because it's so challenging to see results right away. A lot of people tell me they feel better, they're breathing, maybe they're not getting as tired, but a lot of people are like, why does my Kung Fu still not look like Grandmaster Chan? Well, we're all still waiting. So, but I think that's where the drop off is where, like you said, maybe, covering just a quarter of the pond isn't enough. They don't see it yet, but they have to kind of be able to kind of look a little bit more into the future for that compound.
If you're 40 years old,
right?
And you've been working at a job and you've put in money into your 401k, let's say you've been working at a job for 10 years and you put money into your 401k, look at that thing now and compare it to where it is now. And you're going to just see really big jumps as opposed to the first 10 years.
Right.
Look that up. Compound interest is why you want to be consistent. Just putting a little bit of time of what's manageable, and you will be amazed at what you can accomplish as long as you're kind of focused on one thing. The other caveat is being consistent. Being consistently with switching, and then you're never going to progress.
Right.
Because you're just putting in into so many buckets. So pick one thing, focus on it for a certain amount of time, do it consistently, you're going to get a ton of results.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a little interaction for you going on here. I'm going to read the quote for you, and you can try to tell me who decided to log in. And it says, "I always kick in the door when carrying the 4-4."
That would be Hip Dan.
Yeah. Who joined, I think, after we talked about the fact that he doesn't know how to create nuclear fusion, but would definitely be able to define it and explain
By
it
44,
for us.
are those, he waves 44 vectors in different positions? Yeah, I don't know.
But anyways, consistently, persistently, thanks to our hero for bringing that to our attention. And we have some other nice comments that this is a great message and they're thanking us. So we appreciate you. Thank you guys for watching us. And
if anyone is watching and thanking us,
yes,
thank you. Thank you for watching.
It is actually very helpful when we get a little encouragement. Please keep encouraging.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, rule number 4, if you haven't watched the 10 FIT commandments, please do, and please give us feedback, like it, share it with others, because we took a lot of time with that video. We're really proud of it. It was a lot of fun. I know it's a little bit silly, but it has to also be kind of fun and encouraging. So please look at that. Today we covered rule number 4, which we'll reiterate is...
You win, rule number 4. I know you heard this before. You win simply with consistency. It's the things that you hear multiple times, you know they're true.
Absolutely.
Well, sometimes.
Well, in this case it is. So absolutely for your martial art training, everybody, consistency is key. Get into class and try to do stuff in between, because that home practice really does make a difference. The compound interest, like what you just explained.
Actually, I'll end it with this. I know that I talked about...
You did have another thank you from your hero, by the way. Just want you to know.
Well, we can just go back and forth. Thank you.
And Lucas.
All the time. So I know I talk about joint mobility all the time. Okay.
Really? You talk about joint mobility and
Joint
4C
circles.
Fu?
But let me tell you something. I consistently did joint mobility every single day for months at a time.
Yep.
And there were days where I'm like just tired of doing it. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but after a certain amount of time, I realized, oh, my shoulders don't hurt anymore. My knees don't hurt anymore. My elbows don't hurt anymore. My wrist, which I had heard a few weeks ago, and I just consistently kept doing joint mobility stuff. You sometimes don't see the improvement right away. But that is one where I look back and go, oh wait, that's right. I don't have that pain that I used to have. And it's only from doing the same thing consistently every single day. There you go.
You win simply with consistency, everybody.
All right, so next week, number 5.
Okay, see you next week. 7:45 Tuesdays. Bye.